Hey everybody, when Rob and I discovered we both are not only interested in storytelling, but also in the James Bond story, we decided to read the Bond books and compare them with the movies.
Let's talk about continuations from Casino Royale. I think the main reason we talked about this is because we were interested in the Bond character.
Yes.
And especially with lessons learned and things that he experienced. And I was hoping there'd be more of that in this book, especially with Vesper, but there's no mention of that.
Nothing. Very disappointing.
There's kind of a bit at the start where he talks about the interview with M, and he says about how he was told to take plenty of leave after the last mission and to get the skin graft on his hand where Smirsh cut into his hand. Yeah. And then just the revenge stuff. He's very out for revenge against Smirsh.
At least in the first two books, I really have the impression that Fleming is setting up a lot of elements, but then does not pay them off. It's more about setup and about painting big pictures, and not so much about continuity or evolving a certain topic like Bond's love interests and how he might change from letting his guard down in Casino Royale and then having learned something from it, you know?
Yeah. I agree, and it seems very much like the films in that this one thing happened and then on to the next one.
Besides all of this, I really enjoyed reading Live and Let Die much more than Casino Royale. Mm-hmm. I particularly enjoyed all of the Solitaire setup and how she and Bond talk. Mm-hmm. I actually do understand when Bond feels for her and wants to save her. Then we get to the end and it felt like a typical Bond movie ending and it kind of broke the enjoyment because she makes an innuendo and it's obviously that she's wanting to have sex with him, mm-hmm. and that's all. And you don't have this sense of them being maybe more than just romantic interests for this book.
But then Bond's gonna Bond.
There's no sense in going off half-cocked.
But everything before that I found actually really great.
Straight away, the way he's talking about her, he's like, oh, she's like the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, and then it's like, okay, is he falling for a woman like straight away again? I feel like one thing that I couldn't move past for the whole book with Solitaire was how the way she was acting towards Bond was very like, you are my savior, straight away. And I felt like they moved to the talk about spending the future together very early on. And I guess probably because of what happened in the film as well. Like, I was just suspicious the whole time.
In the book, so she is in the enemy's camp. Bond realizes she wants to get away, but he also knows she might be a trap for him.
On the train, he's holding certain information back from her, where I think the character is very similar in book and film. I think she is just acting in a way that will like basically save her. Like, I think in the book she is desperate to be saved from the start. I think in the film she's not proactively trying to get out of the situation. She's just like always aligning with the best option, and she goes with Bond. And then when they get caught,
there's a hell of a view of the lake from 10,000 feet.
My only regret is I won't be there to see it.
In the movie, I always felt like she's superstitious herself and a virgin, and she has this supernatural ability. But in the book, she is described as someone who grew up within these circles, and it's also set up with the dossier and how Bond thinks of supernatural stuff. So with all these things like voodoo, they work, but it's not supernatural, it's something else. And I think Solitaire thinks similarly, and she has much more sense. When she and Mr. Big and Bond meet for the first time, I got the feeling that Solitaire is very present in the situation and she can look into other people's souls, so to speak, and Bond seems to have the same trait or abilities. They click, they look at each other and click in that situation. They both need a partner to escape.
We hear Bond talk about the excitement, but they use a phrase like he had a friend in the enemy's camp. So like I was like, oh, is he excited here for sexual reasons, or is it because he thinks like she'll help with the mission? There's a bit after that interaction where he escapes, where he's talking to Leiter about how they could use Solitaire. One thing I did think back to as well is that ending in the film where she's on the train, she's talking about how...
First time in my life I feel like a complete woman. The slightest touch of your hand.
Rather than a connection to Bond, I think that ties more into her having like sex for the first time and feeling the touch of a lover, and honestly she's just enjoying.
I mean, what the hell can the two of you do on the train for 16 hours?
I love Solitaire in the book, and this is why also the book is far superior in my mind than the movie. I think she is in the movie a flat character in the sense that she has not only little agency, she also has no backstory.
There's bits there, isn't there? Kananga mentions her mother.
These growing signs of impertinence begin to disturb me, Solitaire, even as they did with your mother before you. She had the power and lost it. It became useless to me. You will not make the same mistake.
And he was planning to marry her.
The time came I myself would have given you love.
Whereas in the book, yeah, like he's very open, like, oh yeah, we're getting married.
Yeah, the reason why Mr. Big wants to mate with Solitaire is simply because of her psychical powers, not because he loves her and wants a relationship with her.
Maybe he thinks that if they breed and they'll have children with this power.
Exactly that.
Your power exists to serve me, and it is mine to control. If and when the time comes, I decide you are to lose it, I myself will take it away.
But yeah, I think that'd be cool to like talk more about the actual tone and the plot, because the locations are similar, but the story is very different.
Yeah, what I also really like about the books in general, there's always this preparation phase. And in Live and Let Die is at least a week preparing, boarding, training to make the swim. Then in every movie, he's kind of like, okay, this is your mission. All right, I'm already there.
I agree. I really like that. Bond is not this all-knowing guy. Like in the movie, Bond just knows everything about everything.
Yes, and is able to do everything. He's always a superhero who just knows what to do.
Yeah.
And in the books, you see a human being with feelings and with troubles.
One thing that I feel like is really different in the books is like Bond gets the shit beat out of him. Like he takes a hell of a beating in the books in the way that like obviously he has his finger broken. When he gets bit by the barracuda, he lost a mouthful of muscle.
Yeah.
It sounds like he gets really bad injuries, which he doesn't in the film.
Yeah, exactly. In our last talk about Casino Royale, I said that I liked that I didn't see any of the Bonds in the book.
Yeah.
But in Live and Let Die, I actually also not only see many of the elements of the Bond movies, but also it's almost like the Bond formula. So it takes stuff out, shorten some of the stuff, and you have one great plot with a monster ending. I mean, the ending is really intense. All those description of the water and how all the eyes around him, and he knows he's swimming and he knows everything around him is danger. There's nothing good in it. It's all evil and against him.
He's talking about like how he feels uncomfortable going into it. Like he's not always the confident Bond that we see in the film.
Yeah.
He needed to kind of mentally prepare himself to go under the water, but then by the time he got to it, like he was focused and excitement took over him.
Yes.
It was good to see there was a lot more Bond and Leiter in this, and you can kind of see their closeness as friends and like beyond just people on a mission together. They're like laughing, they're joking. This is like the Bond nerd in me, but when he gets to Jamaica and he meets up with Strangways and Quarrel, I was really happy about that, because I know in the film it's Quarrel Jr. and then Strangways as well. You know, we're actually seeing that they've met before and they've worked together, so I think that was really cool seeing some of those characters.
What I found remarkable is when Quarrel and Bond meet for the first time, and Bond sees in Quarrel more of those buccaneers of those old times, and there's this connection. And I find it also remarkable because Quarrel is a black person, right?
Yeah, I felt like with the stuff towards like black people, I found some of that was pretty uncomfortable reading, and I think like the way that they were kind of being described as like primitive, and like the sort of the belief in voodoo was kind of derogatory. And
yeah, true.
I feel like there was parts where it did feel like a bit unnecessary and flat out racist, but it was before like the civil rights movement, so I feel like writing some of this stuff in literature is probably more common.
Yeah, that's what I think. He's just describing what he experienced in Harlem. When Bond and Leiter first enter Harlem, and then Fleming describes the atmosphere. The people look at them and hate them openly. And I think this is where I really love the movie. When Bond in his coat, he looks so British. And then he enters the bar and he's like totally out of place there. And he's looking around, everything is quiet. And they're still civil to him, but they're only civil to him because they are devious. And
they're trying to get him in the right booth, so to say. I want to talk about like the Mr. Big thing, because I felt like in both the movie and the film there was almost like a respect between Bond and Mr. Big, or Bond and Kananga.
Correct again, Mr. Bond. What a quick study you are.
In the book, we see more about like Bond having almost like an admiration for Mr. Big in the way he's doing things. It reminds me of that bit in Casino Royale, that talk he has with Vesper, where they swept up in the girl of the world, but they kind of can have this respect for each other.
Yes, there is a moral argument, I think, but it's not as strongly emphasized as in Casino Royale.
Yes, but I think it was more from that way of thinking, and like how Bond kind of admires some of the qualities of this Big Hat, even though morally they're coming from completely different places. They respect each other, even though they hate each other.
2 more glasses for our guests.
Say live and let die.